Hello, welcome to the video where we'll talk about risk management as part of crisis management tasks. The content of this video is based on the article written by Abdusalomova in 2017. Natural disasters are becoming more common. Therefore, increasing number of disasters requires the use of prevention measures. Consequently, in the United Nations Conference on Catastrophe Risk Reduction, a new strategic plan named as the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction from 2015 till 2030, with a focus on natural disaster prevention based on risk assessment and management, was adopted. Now, let's watch a video about this strategic plan.
The Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction was adopted on 18 March 2015 at the 3rd UN World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction in Sendai, Japan. It was endorsed 3 months later by the UN General Assembly. The Sendai Framework is a call to action over the next 15 years to make the world a safer place and to reduce the risk of man-made and natural hazards. It is designed specifically to achieve the substantial reduction of disaster risk and losses in lives, livelihoods and health. Preventing new and emerging risk and reducing existing risk is essential to any substantial reduction in disaster losses. It has 4 main priorities. Priority 1. Understanding disaster risk is about ensuring that policies and practices for disaster risk management are based on a clear understanding of vulnerability and exposure to hazards. Priority 2. Strengthening disaster risk governance means having a clear strategy, strong institutions, laws and budget to ensure the efficient management of disaster risk. Priority 3. Investing in disaster risk reduction for resilience includes public and private investment in measures which will prevent and reduce losses. Priority 4. The importance of disaster preparedness and building back better after a disaster strikes. The Sendai Framework sets out 7 targets to measure progress in achieving a substantial reduction of disaster risk. Target 1. To substantially reduce global disaster mortality by 2030. Between 2005 and 2015, over 700,000 people around the world lost their lives from disasters. Target 2. To substantially reduce the number of affected people globally by 2030. In the last 10 years, over 1.4 million people were injured and 24 million have been made homeless. Target 3. Reduce direct disaster economic loss in relation to GDP. $1 invested in resilient infrastructure can save $7 or more in response and recovery costs. Target 4. Reduce damage to infrastructure and disruption to basic infrastructure. The Sendai Framework also sets targets for increasing the number of countries with disaster risk reduction strategies, increasing international cooperation to developing countries, and substantially increasing public access to early warning systems. The Sendai Framework is a critical part of the post-2015 development agenda. It supports the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the Climate Change Agreement. Everyone has a stake in disaster risk reduction. Each state has the primary responsibility, but all citizens need to be engaged and risk-informed. Together, we can all make a difference.
Now, let's give a definition for these terms. Responding to, managing, and recovering from unexpected incident is the focus of crisis management. The first rule of crisis management is plan for the worst case, while risk management is focused with recognizing, analyzing, and managing any behavior or occurrence that has the potential to harm the organization. Management science is a scientific base for risk management methods and practices. This method is new in administration and crisis management. Security science is a scientific basis of management methods and practices that covers human security function, including tasks such as management, business, finance, administration, and awareness. Whittle's Comra addresses the question of whether the crisis management system should continue to be based on crisis theory created on the security sciences, or it should be based on risk management developed in the management science. Now, let's look at the example of risk management implementation. Because of the constant growth in number of natural disasters and catastrophes, the European Parliament and Council of the European Union agreed in 2013 to reform a mechanism of the European Union Civil Protection Mechanism and the implementation of risk management skills in all member countries. One of the new obligations coming from the decision is previously mentioned responsibility to develop risk management capabilities. This is defined as the ability of member states to minimize risk, adapt to risk, or even restrict risk. Now, going back to the Wittelskammer's work, he defined 4 essential tasks of financial, administrative, and technical aspects. These are risk assessment, risk management planning, risk prevention, and ensuring readiness. In order to comprehend these regulations, he showed the sequence of required steps in this figure. He separated the process of risk management readiness into 2 sub-processes, linked to each other by the assessment and planning stage. Unconditional risk is involved in risk prevention. The materialization of unconditional risk is a random occurrence that is unaffected by any other hazards. However, crisis preparation relates to contingent risk, which may only be evaluated if previous risk has occurred. This difference between unconditional and contingent risk is referred to as non-natural hazards. It's not always the case that the major risk is owned by the government. When considering the importance of vital infrastructure, this distinction becomes very clear. The evaluation of threats and risks connected with them is required before beginning the emergency management planning process. The National Security Danger Report is a document in which such an evaluation is made. The crisis management plans are developed on the basis of these reports. These plans include features that enable its execution to be prepared for all needed aspects. The legislation, on the other hand, excludes duties connected to primary risk prevention. Because it's difficult to identify the necessary financial resources to combat specific risks, no risk management strategies have been developed and no risk prevention measures have been developed or executed. Also, uncertainty is an immeasurable category. Efforts are being made to rationalize decision making by taking into consideration the decision maker's criteria. These criteria are called criterions. However, it should be noted that the use of criteria is limited to actions on the so-called regret matrix. The regret matrix is the difference between each action's payoff for a given state of nature. Another aspect of risk management this time is linked with conditional risk. It happens throughout the stage of developing and maintaining awareness. The creation of a network of units to respond to a negative occurrence necessitates a risk assessment. Using mathematical analysis, including game theories, to address the challenge of primary and contingent risk management, suggests that crisis management should no longer be viewed just as a response to emergencies. When the danger materializes, the updated version of the crisis management system should comprise risk assessment, risk management, and reaction components. Moving away from crisis management as an ability to manage a crisis and toward a total risk management strategy represents a significant shift for the government. This also holds true for the terminology and concepts used. The crisis management system should mostly be based on safety sciences, concepts, and methodologies, where it's based on risk assessment, but risk management is minimal. Standardization of terminology required in the deployment of the crisis management techniques established on the basis of management science. In conclusion, the system's role, which is now focused at a direct response to an approaching or present disasters and catastrophes, should be expanded to include a preventative phase, because prevention is better than the cure. The updated system's goal should be to control key risks while also constructing and maintaining the resources and structures required to respond to crises. These operations should be viewed as a continual, normal administrative action that may be viewed as a process. It's the end of my video. Thank you for your attention.